we see and hear is the result of us being able to perceive different frequencies of light and sound. Do they affect us physically? Of course. But to what degree? You're listening to Music Student 101. Let's talk about it with your hosts, Jeremy Burns and Matthew Scott Phillips.
All right, welcome to Music Student 101.
Welcome.
Hey, Matt, how's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Let me ask you, Matt, after hearing the intro music, do you feel any more in tune or better other than just hearing the great music?
Well, you know, I always love good music.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have perfect pitch, so...
That is a factor, huh?
That is a factor. I do not have perfect pitch. My relative pitch is pretty good, but
Yep.
Perfect pitch, no.
Let me tell you, what I did was I took this entire piece and retuned it from the standard 440 tuning
Right.
to 432, which
Right.
some claim
to
to be the frequency that most people should be using because it is somehow more in tune. I hold up my quote marks
Right.
with the universe.
with the great universe there.
So, as we start to get more and more into these theory topics, as we start to run out of some of these theory topics, we are trying to do a few more light veggies. Did we say?
Yeah, some sort of musical adjacent stuff.
Yeah, musically adjacent stuff. So we're going to try a new thing and get through this episode and see how you guys like it.
Yep.
This is going to be part one of Nature in Music.
Okay.
Working title, if we
Working
use that.
title, yeah.
And normally we start pretty small and simple and expand into greater and bigger things.
Yeah.
However, this time we're going to start big and we're going to start with the universe.
And start with the universe itself.
There are some theories that the universe itself resonates in a certain frequency.
Right.
And that seems like a pretty big study.
Well, yeah, and it's been going on ever since the Middle Ages. Well, ever since ancient Greeks, actually.
Mm-hmm.
There has been... the ancient Greeks believed that as the planets revolved, they sort of created a harmony, you know, as they moved through space. You know, they created a resonance that we could feel and perceive down here on Earth, and that you know, being a well-adjusted and generally at peace with yourself person involved to at least some extent, being well in harmony with this.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and that's kind of a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the Schumann frequency, what it is, what it isn't, what it does, what it doesn't do.
Yeah, and a lot of this is highly, shall we say, speculative.
Yeah, we're going to get into more of that a little bit later on because we found some pretty interesting articles and some pretty strange articles.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we did. But before we get into all that, do you suppose we should get into our little social segment here?
Let's do that.
It seems like we're back on the new review train.
Oh, that's good.
We had a few episodes where we just didn't have anything, but now
we're getting some, so yeah.
Would you like for me to take this, or do you want it?
Why don't you take the review?
I'll take the review. Okay. So we have, this was found on Apple Podcast Reviews by LLFCLL.
Okay.
Or LLFC2.
Lifkle.
From Belgium.
From Belgium. Lovely.
Do you know that some of my favorite beers are Belgian beers?
Some of mine too.
Yeah.
They're responsible for a whole style of beer, which is, one of my favorites.
Which is pretty great.
Yeah.
So, drink one with us, for us.
They probably get really sick of everybody outside of Belgium going, hey, you guys have great beer.
Yeah. Well, there's chocolate, too.
We love your chocolate and your waffles and your beer, and that's the extent of what we know about Belgium.
And Brussels sprouts.
Yeah. Actually, not and Brussels sprouts. Actually, not the extent of what we know about Belgium. I actually know a little bit about Belgium, but that's probably for another podcast.
And I know Brussels sprouts don't come from Brussels, Belgium.
Probably not.
Probably not.
But you never know.
But you never know. We're not food scientists, if that's even a word. Okay, so anyways, so our friend LLFCLL from Belgium says, although I'm a beginner folk violinist, and much of this podcast content is way too advanced for me, I love listening to it during my commute or runs. I always learn something from it.
Oh, that's awesome. And just keep listening. It will become less advanced.
Yes, repeat the episodes over, start at the beginning, and that tends to help out a little bit.
You will start to get it, I promise.
I imagine there are some people who maybe this is a bit advanced for. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, we never shy. Our whole philosophy is to not shy away from challenging theory topics.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we're willing to get into the weeds.
Yeah,
you know, we're willing to get into some advanced stuff. Hopefully, that's what people like about us. You know,
it seems to be the majority.
Yeah, I would say don't sell yourself short, even if you don't understand everything. You know, be patient with yourself. You know, play them over again as many times as you have to. You know, study outside of the podcast, of course, and you can understand this, and it will be well worth it.
Mm-hmm. It didn't stop our friend from Belgium from sending a nice review.
Indeed.
5 stars,
thank you so much.
5 stars.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you so much for your encouragement.
Absolutely. And for encouraging others to check it out.
Right. Yeah, that we always love that.
So now we have ourselves a Patreon patron, a new Patreon patron.
Yes, indeed.
New to you listeners. We're a little backlogged for a couple of months for some of the Patreon patrons, but we're going to keep on reading them out as we go.
New to the listeners, but she's actually been a fan for a while.
Yes,
We've had some interactions.
Indeed.
Here, which is great. So Jessica Brophy from Billings, Montana.
Yeah.
That's Montana, right? MT?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know stuff like state abbreviations. Yeah.
I don't think I know all of them.
I'm a little bit of an idiot savant. You get me outside of music, and I don't know what I'm talking about. At any rate, Jessica says, I cannot tell you how much I love Music Student 101. I found it when I was searching through Spotify music podcasts to help hit my goal of studying music for an hour every day. Great goal.
Wow, yeah.
Laudable goal. I've checked out a few different podcasts based on music, and yours is by far the most thorough and useful. And the most entertaining.
Hey.
Well.
Thank you.
I'm glad somebody finds us entertaining.
Are you not entertained?
You're not entertained. Yeah. We honestly aren't trying to be entertaining. We just can't stay focused on a subject for
our digressions
is
where
minutes.
the gold is. The golden nugget seems to be in our silly digressions.
Yeah. I'm really blown away by both of your levels of understanding in music theory. I am listening to each episode in order, and I'm currently on number 30. Awesome. She's probably further along than that by now.
Probably like 40 or 50, maybe way further.
Matt said in this episode that you are basically giving us a college-level education for free.
Did you say that,
Yes,
Matt?
right. It sounds like something I would say.
Would you say that's inaccurate? I would not say that's inaccurate.
Not too much. I mean, you miss some things, I guess. You know, I mean, you don't get private lessons through the podcast.
No.
And you don't get to take tests and do homework.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
We won't do that to you.
But otherwise, yeah. And he is so right. For this, I am very grateful. I am not a professional musician yet. Yet is a big word there. But music is my biggest passion. I am a singer and guitarist, and I am learning piano. I am a full-time artist based in Montana, and I've had the pleasure of seeing some of Jessica's art.
Yeah.
And it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
We'll talk about that in just a second here.
Yeah. Full-time artist based in Montana, the state that literally has more cows than people.
Really? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, she said literally.
She said literally.
I'm willing to take her word for
We're
it.
holding your word to that, Jessica.
And I make custom paintings. This means I spend a lot of time working in my studio painting people's dogs or favorite landscapes. I have come to prefer listening to Music Student 101 even over my beloved piano playlists. I want you to know that your podcast is doing much more than providing music theory education. Earlier this year, I was at the tail end of the most difficult time I've ever experienced in my life due to a broken relationship. We've all been there.
Tough. That's tough stuff.
Yeah. Your podcast played a huge part in moving past that time of grief. As I listen to Music Student 101 every day, You gave me a renewed love for music, and your intelligent, articulate voices transported me to a space where my sorrow could not come.
Huh.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
I really like that. Cheesy, maybe, but truthful nonetheless. I don't think that's cheesy.
Not at all.
I've had similar experiences with music and with other things, so I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I will continue listening to Music Student 101, and I plan on going back through each episode and taking notes.
Smart.
Awesome. I'm making a small monthly donation through my Patreon as well. And thank you so much, Jessica, for your donation. Thank you so much for the kind words. It is so gratifying to know that we're having such a positive effect on people.
Yeah. And let me tell you about Jessica's art. Like she said, she does tend to specialize on cool kind of open landscapes.
Yeah.
But then she also has this animal thing where she does really great, fantastic portraits of dogs.
Yeah, really good.
And I imagine she might do commissions, I'm guessing.
I'm guessing she's not opposed.
Who would not like to have
I'll go out there on a limb and say she's, at the very least, not opposed to some commission work.
She spends a lot of time in her art studio, and that's the way to do it,
Yeah, yeah.
So check it out. It's really amazing stuff. And you can find her on Facebook. Just look up Jessica Brophy. There's a few of them, but the one that has the art.
The one that has all the cool art paintings, that's her.
Yeah. And then her business page, which I would definitely recommend checking out, is also Facebook, which is go to Facebook and look up Free Indeed Art. And she also has a very nice website at freeindeedart.com.
Oh, very nice.
Free Indeed Art. I don't think that means she does everything for free.
Probably not.
Maybe she's free to be an artist?
Free to be an artist, yeah.
We're going to get back to Jessica on that before we
release
release
You can see it on
this
Facebook
episode.
for free, maybe.
Yeah.
If you want your own, she does commissions.
But yeah, we're sitting here setting up your business model for you, Jessica. I hope you appreciate that.
Yeah, hey, we do what we can.
Despite what your business model might actually be.
Musicians and artists understand each other in the sense that we have to find a way to make our passions profitable and not just profitable, but we have to get our passions out into the world, which is a terrifying thing sometimes. Not to mention an extraordinarily hard thing, even if you don't find it terrifying at all.
Right. And Jessica helps us out because she has a Music Student 101 coffee mug that she drinks out of, and people ask her about it, and she tells them all about us.
That is so great. That is so great. It's so great that she listens to us while she's painting. That's just a special little thing in my heart now.
I would have thought the piano playlist would have been a little bit more inspiring than
Totally.
our silly little southern voices
Yeah.
cackling and rapping about theory.
When we can even continue... Remember to talk about theory.
Oh, yeah.
Half the time we're talking about what we do and don't know about Belgium. And
Like this entire episode. Well, hey, thanks again, Jessica. We really have enjoyed getting to know you, and our correspondence has been great. You seem like a lovely, wonderful person and a fine artist. So,
yes, and I look forward to more art.
Yeah, totally. So stay in touch.
All right.
Let us move on. I guess it's my turn, isn't it?
I guess it's your turn.
Oh. Okay, so now we have a listener mail.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I sent you a copy of this, Matt, and you've actually responded. So we'll just try and answer as we did when our initial correspondence.
We'll do our best to not say two different things in two different media.
Because Rigo actually has a couple of questions. This is Rigo Espinoza from Southern California. Rigo says, I'm a 24-year-old college student studying business. I play guitar and bass at a church 2 to 3 times a week. That's
very
good.
nice.
I've been listening to your podcast for about a year, and it's my favorite music theory podcast. I started to play music in middle school jazz band. I played alto sax till I was kicked out of the band in the 10th grade. I bet there's a good story behind that.
Yeah, I want to know more.
Yeah. The last 3 years, I have been really wanting to improve my musicianship. Your podcast helped me to get a grasp on music theory. I wish I had the chance to go back and learn these things in college. For about a couple of years, I have been practicing ear training, and I got to where I have an 85% accuracy on interval identification up to an octave, but when I try to move on to melodic and harmonic dictation, I'm totally lost. I get that.
Interesting.
I get that.
Yeah.
I've listened to all of your ear training podcasts, but feel hopeless in improving. Oh no. How much should I be practicing? I usually do 15 minutes a day. This is an essential skill I need to play at church since the majority of musicians are leagues ahead of me and all trained by ear. Also, we play about 150 songs, but I cannot memorize songs even if my life depended on it.
Well, no, I don't think I have 150 songs memorized, so I don't feel bad.
I might actually, believe it or not. 'Cause I played in so
Jeremy
many
might
bands.
have 150 songs memorized.
Not the words, mind you.
Just the chords.
Yeah. Any tips on not just memorizing songs, but internalizing them so that they go into my long-term memory? It's so frustrating learning a song only to forget it a few days later and having to relearn it again when the song comes up on a set list a month later. Thanks for taking the time and for taking a look at my email. I appreciate all the hard work you put into the podcast and would love to become a patron once I graduate this summer and get off my ramen noodle soup diet.
The ramen noodle diet.
We know the ramen noodle.
We know the ramen noodle diet, yeah.
He says it's great to be a part of the Music Student 101 community.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Do you, Matt, do you remember what you said in response to his question?
No. So
Maybe you'll get two
probably, I'm at great risk here of contradicting myself.
We are but human.
Yeah. But at the risk of this, I'm gonna say what I feel like just reading his listener mail now about the 15 minutes a day. That is certainly better than nothing.
Yeah.
In fact, if I did 15 minutes of ear training a day, I would be very proud of myself. Because I'm usually like, oh, shoot, I haven't practiced my ear training all week. And, now I feel like I've got to spend an hour or something. You know, if I did 15 minutes a day, this would be great. But I don't have that level of discipline. I want to stress patience.
Yeah. Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Yeah. This is not a skill there's not a trick to this. There will be 100% effective 100% of the time. Ear training is a skill, and you develop any skill through practice.
Anyone who claims otherwise is trying to sell you something.
Absolutely. Just keep on with your 15 minutes a day. If you want to crank it up to 30 minutes a day, that's definitely awesome too. But in general, just try to be patient with yourself. Just keep doing it. 85% is not bad.
No.
I
don't even know if I could claim that.
There is also a bit of probably an intellectual / skill level leap when you go from interval recognition to melodic dictation. Because, and ear training is taught this way, and even in some colleges where you're expected to just, that was a major third, that was a minor fifth, that was a perfect fifth, that was, and in so doing, go interval by interval and pick out a melody, and nobody is that good.
Nah.
Nobody is that good.
It's a lot of processing.
Yeah. When I do melodic dictation, I tend to think, where is tonic? Where is the do? Right? And
root yourself.
Yeah, root yourself to the do. Once you're very good at rooting yourself to the do, start trying to root yourself to the perfect fifth in addition to the do. So I know where do is, I know where sol is, and then everything else is just somewhere in between those, right? Start simple, and think of every note in relation to do, think of every note in relation to sol. Learn the sounds of particular things, like the major chord. Most ear training, will have exercises. Was that a major or minor chord?
I felt pretty major.
Yeah.
You weren't asking me. You were just...
Yeah, rhetorical question. But you're right. You're right. Versus, is that a major or minor chord? And in what inversion?
Yeah.
Learn things like that, and then when your melody goes, you can say, "Oh, that's a major chord."
So you got that little part covered.
Yeah,
just from memory.
Little things like in minor key, lay down to sol. So, and that You know, little things like that will start to stick out in your ears. Don't try to translate directly interval recognition. It's a little bit useless. I probably shouldn't say that, but there it is out in the
Cumbersome?
universe now. Well, just I mean, people say, well, learn that the major six is my body lies over the ocean. It's like, well, that's great, but that doesn't really help you much when you start trying to dictate melody.
Well, you don't want to have to sing My Bonnie every time you hear what may or may not be a major six, but that's kind of how I started off recognizing the major six. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, people have different things.
People have different pedagogies, yeah. But then when you hear a major six in context, you're not thinking. You're not thinking that anymore. I orientate myself. I kind of know where soul is. La sol, right? So when I know where soul is, that was a note above it.
Okay.
A diatonic note above it. So things like that, mainly just keep practicing. Just keep at it.
Yeah.
Just keep at it until the major and minor scales are ingrained in your ears. Be patient with yourself. Don't try to go too fast. Start off dictating simple melodies. Most, like I said, Teoria, McGammett, all of this stuff, they have levels of difficulty. Start on the low ones.
Yeah.
And see how far you get. Mainly just be patient. Mainly just be patient.
And we actually, when we were taking this podcast in a slightly different direction, I think our 4th or 3rd episode or something was how to be a good student.
How to be a good student.
Well, the one thing that we did talk about that I think is good advice is while Jessica is doing this for an hour a day, he's doing it for 15 minutes a day. Somewhere in between, really, because at some point you start to lose focus. You start to lose absorbency.
Right, yeah.
Right? After 45 minutes to an hour is kind of considered to be the ideal amount of time.
Your brain gets a little tired.
Yeah.
And really, that can be a very personal thing, how long you can maintain focus and feel like you're learning, feel like you're getting something out of it. The great thing about a podcast is when you feel like your brain is tired, just stop, pick it back up. If you're tired of practicing your instrument, stop. You'll pick it back up later.
Yep. It's okay.
If you don't, you'll start making more mistakes.
And getting more and more frustrated.
Yeah. The good thing that he and Jessica are both doing is doing a little bit every day. And that is really the secret is to do this a little bit every day.
Yeah.
Do this to the amount you feel comfortable every day, which is also sort of my advice about memorizing songs. It's a lot easier to memorize a song that you practice every day than one you learn and then a month later have forgotten.
Sure.
Look, if I learned a song and then it was a month before I played it again, I will have largely forgotten it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Mr. 150 songs over here, let's see what you think.
I forget plenty.
Any advice on memorizing songs?
Well, one thing I do is, it's kind of all in the back of your head if you've heard a song enough times.
Yeah.
Now, if you're singing lead and you have to sing on stage, what I do sometimes, the few times I did sing lead, was write like the first 3 words of each line.
Yeah.
And then underneath it, continue. So you don't have to have the whole page where you're just sitting there reading the whole thing.
Right.
But you have little cues, little bits to kind of bring you back into where you need to be. And hopefully the automatic memory kind of takes over.
Yeah. What about like learning chord progressions?
Ooh.
Or bass lines or...
Oh. No, I just listen to what the bass player is doing. And oftentimes my bass lines, I'm kind of ashamed to say, but kind of not, because this is how I make it mine. Now, if it's an iconic bass line like doom 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 doom,
right, yeah,
or whatever, bum 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 things like that, you want to play note for note.
Yeah.
But if it's a bass line to a song where the bass line isn't king, it's just a supportive role, I will often do my own little things to make it Jeremy interesting.
Right, yeah.
But
And they aren't necessarily the same things every time you play it.
Yeah, still holding on to the main foundation, still holding on to the bass role.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say just in terms of just remembering a chord progression, just do it a bunch.
Repetition.
Really just do it a lot. You know, that's really the only way to. When I played church gigs, I found lead sheets helpful. You know, because it's like, well, I've got the chords on a lead sheet. I don't have to remember.
Right.
You know, when I didn't have a lead sheet, I would say, just give me a clear line of sight to the guitar player's hands. And then I would at least just play, whatever chord he was playing, right?
Because you know the basic chords on a guitar.
Yeah, I can watch a guitarist and unless they're doing something really crazy. Yeah. But other than that, yeah, just do it a lot. Keep practicing it. And again, don't be too hard on yourself. We all forget songs.
Yeah.
We've all forgotten songs after we hadn't played them for a while, and have that sense of, okay, it went something like this. But
fake it till you make it. Sometimes you can fake it till you make it.
I heard a bass line the other day that I had completely forgotten even existed. It was one of mine. It was on the CD of a band that I recorded with. And I had forgotten the song existed. I had forgotten my bass line that I wrote to it existed.
Socket? Did you hear that?
No? Gosh, no. Yeah, it was a Full Moon Blanket.
Okay.
Actually. So yeah, forgot all of that existed.
Yeah.
And then the song just came up, and I thought, oh wow, I did write that and play that.
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, and of course now I do not remember how to play that bass line anymore because it's because it was something that I had forgotten I had even done. But
sure,
it comes with exposure, it comes with experience, it comes with practice, and that's it. Don't be too hard on yourselves for not being able to remember hundreds of songs.
Yep, and when you're learning new chords, you're also learning how to pivot between those chords and the chords you already know. So
yeah,
it's all going there. It's all going down in the bank.
Yeah. It might also be helpful to learn parts other than your own.
Yeah. Oh yeah, interesting.
Yeah, because if you're playing the guitar, learn what the bass player's doing, or if you're playing piano, learn what the guitarist is doing, or
kind of get an overview, kind of a broad overview.
Yeah, because then the song makes sense in a context outside of just your role. Then you sort of have a better sense of what's going on musically from all of the parts, and then it's easier to understand your role because you have guide markers. You
think outside your role.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good advice. Yeah. Now, before we move on to the rest of the episode, I want to say one quick thing because I love what Rigo said about being a part of the Music Student 101 community.
We have a community now.
Isn't that great? And also, Jessica's situation where she said that we kind of helped her through a difficult time in her life. I find that to be one of the most rewarding things that I've heard so far.
Yeah.
And it's a funny thing because this is something that I've taken more and more serious lately. When you listen to a podcast for more than 10 or so episodes and you start to get to feel like you really know the host.
Oh, yeah.
You almost feel like you're sitting there having a conversation. And there's been times where I've blurted out.
Oh, sure.
Interjecting in a conversation that I'm listening to on the radio.
I have had to pause podcasts just to say to myself my piece about what they're talking about. Which is probably a testament to how smart I think I am. My overblown sense of ego. but I've had to pause podcasts before and just interject my thoughts. Okay, now we can keep going.
Just for yourself.
Just for myself.
Well, I don't want to dwell on this, but I remember when I was even before I started working on this podcast, I wanted to get my music tech knowledge back up, and I listened to this podcast called the Home Recording Odyssey podcast. And then so many episodes in, one of the hosts, Derek, was like, I've been diagnosed with cancer, but we're going to keep this thing going. And then so many episodes later, it was like, he's gone. And that wrecked me, man.
Oh, man.
It was just like, really, I felt like I lost a friend.
Yeah.
So to me, there's something special about being able to connect and communicate with people across the globe and kind of get a sense of what's going on in their lives. And it just kind of makes me feel a little more human.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely been the most rewarding experience for us.
And if you've written into this show and you haven't gotten a response yet, that's because I like to get into the email and really give a proper response when I write back. So
again, patience. The word of the day. Yeah.
But just know that all of our listeners, we love you and we cherish you. And sometimes if I don't hear back from somebody,
we get worried.
I'm like, are you dead? Don't be dead. So write us back, but also know that when you write us in the first place, I get a little oxytocin boost when I see that little new thing in my inbox.
Absolutely. Then he forwards it to me, and I get the exact same.
Yeah.
Yeah, serotonin bump, endorphin bump.
The feeling is mutual. You guys are helping us out as much as we're helping you out, hopefully.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Matt.
Yes, sir.
It is time for us to continue.
It is time for us to continue. I still like the title, Music Adjacent.
Music adjacent, huh?
Yeah. For some of these, as long as we're going to, do podcast planning while we're literally on the air, I still like the term music adjacent, because this is stuff that is not exactly musician oriented and playing music and understanding theory oriented, but it is interesting and it is related to that enough so that I think musicians might find it interesting.
Whereas music in nature, I think the scientists will find interesting. But we're not here for the scientists, are we?
Who knows?
This whole thing was inspired by this podcast I listened to on birdsong, and it was just blew my mind. It was on 20,000 hertz, that audio podcast I listened to, and I just thought it'd be cool to maybe talk about whale song, bird song,
that kind of stuff.
how creatures use music and tones to communicate.
Right, which we do too.
Exactly. So we'll see where this all goes, if it even goes anywhere.
Okay.
But like I said, let me tell you a little bit about how I got into all this. When I was in college, I had to take, a certain number of sciences, for my core. And part of that was an astronomy course that my sister and I decided to take with Professor Thomas Doviak. And he was known to be one of the grumpiest professors. And we actually kind of took the course because I got to see this in action, But he turned out to be just that, But it was one of the greatest courses I ever took because it taught me so much about the universe around us, frequencies, light, wave nature, particle nature, all these things, how they tie together. And all of a sudden, the universe made a lot more sense to me after I was done with that course.
That's awesome.
I also took a cool course from Noah White on acoustics.
I remember Noah White. I probably took that course on acoustics too with Noah.
Yeah. So those were kind of my intros to these concepts, and I've kind of independently gone on throughout my life, getting back into it. What was the Neil deGrasse Tyson thing?
Oh yeah,
the universe. Or,
all
that stuff.
We are made of stardust.
Tesla's studies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
God.
To say nothing of the Levitan book, This Is Your Brain on Music.
Yes. Which will be another cool episode, I think.
Yeah.
The music and the brain.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of the stuff that I'm reading to you regarding the Schumann frequency is based on a little article I read called Fact and Fiction of the Schumann Resonance by Brian Dunning.
Okay.
By Brian Dunning on skeptoid.com.
All right.
And we'll put a link on the links section of the website.
Excellent.
But we want to give a quick little overview. We're actually going to have an episode on acoustics, mind you.
Good.
But we actually had a little episode on the overtone series, which might help kind of as a precursor.
Kind of similar-esque studies, yeah.
So really, when you get down to the nitty-gritty, everything we see and hear is a product of how we receive and process frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
Something makes a sound, the vibrations hit airwaves, air molecules.
Right.
They act as a kind of a domino effect.
Right, yeah. So when something vibrates, it pushes the air around it. Those air molecules hit air molecules that hit other air molecules that hit other air molecules. And this is the wave, the sound wave that passes through the medium of air and hits our eardrums eventually.
Yep. And then our brains translate that into sound in our heads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sure there's a more complicated way to say that, but I'm going to try and keep this as simple as I can.
That's the long and short of it.
That's the long and short of it. Let's see here. Let me give kind of a quick example. Now, one of the best examples I can think of is if, say, you have a pond, completely undisturbed, like glass, okay? Just completely undisturbed pond. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to drop a marble into the water.
Right.
And we're going to have a little stick kind of sticking up not too far away from where this point is that we're going to drop.
Okay.
This stick is going to be kind of the point of reference, okay?
Yep.
So you drop a marble into the water. What happens? Circular waves, many of them come out from the center, from this point.
Yes.
Now, there's some main terms we're going to be using through this episode. Wavelength, frequency, and what was the other one? Amplitude, I guess.
That's another good one, yeah.
So if we're thinking about this little, if you're thinking about these ripples coming out from this point where you drop the marble, the wavelength is how far apart these little ripples are.
Right.
The amplitude is how high they are.
How big the wave.
How big the wave, exactly. You know, how tall the wave, how loud or how strong the signal. The frequency, if we think back to this little stick that we put in the pond next to the part where we're dropping the water, how many waves go through this one point? How many waves pass through this stick in a second?
Right.
So that's the frequency.
Yeah. So maybe you can clarify for me the difference between wavelength and frequency, because it seems like the distance between the waves is what's going to determine how many you can get by in a second.
Well, they're closely related, actually. The distance of the wavelengths determines the frequency. So the shorter the distance of the wavelengths, the higher the frequency, and vice versa. So yeah, the wavelength determines the frequencies.
I see.
Now, we're not physicists.
Not even
We're not going to
close.
give any complex equations here.
Not that kind of degree.
But that's my understanding of it,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so again, like I said, this happens way quicker, believe it or not, in water than it does in air. Sound waves are actually determined by the material again.
Mm-hmm.
A sound wave traveling through air is actually working at 340 meters per second.
Okay.
But in water, it's 1,530 meters per second.
So traveling faster.
Almost 5 times faster.
That's fascinating.
I never knew that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
What else to say about that? Electromagnetic waves travel at a speed of light, of course, and they do not require air molecules. That's why they can travel through space. They can travel in a vacuum. Some of these things we're going to talk about later on can only travel in vacuums.
Yeah. What is the wave? What is waving? What is waving? What is the wave?
That was my question, man. And I think it has something to do with the absorption and re-emission of vibrations amongst electrons from atom to atom. But I'm not positive.
Okay.
But again, don't quote me on that. But I do know that it does not happen mechanically like sound waves through displacement of air molecules.
Right.
Or water molecules or any material.
Yeah.
Because it can travel through space. Hey, for the same reason, no one will ever hear you scream in space.
Right. Vacuum.
Wasn't that the aliens?
Yeah. In space, no one can hear you scream.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, because there is no air, so there's no molecules to bump into each other and cause a wave, so there's no sound waves as we traditionally perceive them.
Exactly.
And much to the chagrin of all Star Wars fans who love the sound of the TIE fighters, they
Choo choo.
Yeah, that so would not happen,
Wookiee.
right?
No one would hear Chewbacca. We would never know what Chewbacca sounded like.
Well, if Chewbacca was inside the ship, where presumably there's an air pocket.
Yes, there is an atmosphere kind of thing going on inside the ship.
But we digress. You wouldn't hear Chewbacca outside the ship.
So back to wavelengths, the shortest ones can be on an atomic level, like teeny tiny nanometers
Yeah. Okay.
and beyond. The largest ones can be on the planetary level, like the size of the planet, on like a wavelength
a wave the size of a planet.
Which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Brain the size of a planet.
When we're talking about using different frequencies for communication, I think a good example to simplify it would be just a simple walkie-talkie.
Mm-hmm.
You get a walkie-talkie, your friend has a walkie-talkie. You both put it on channel 1, you'll hear each other because channel 1 is tuned to the same frequency. So it's sending out information and using the frequency as a carrier wave.
Okay.
And so if you think about it that way, all radio waves have different frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use them on that frequency to communicate, and somehow, magically, it does not interfere with other communications on other frequencies, even down to a small degree.
So using a frequency as a carrier wave, so your sound waves of your voice are doing what? Riding on this wave somehow. Are they like overtones of that wave, or?
Okay, here's my understanding of how it all works. And I'm going to look into this, and if it's not true, I'm going to just disregard this
We're
part.
just going to delete this part?
Or I'll go back and give a better explanation. But kind of my understanding from it was, if you have a pure tone,
Yep.
and that's the radio wave you want to use.
Yep.
You're talking, and when you're talking, your voice is intermodulating with this frequency.
Okay.
So it's causing a difference from the original frequency there's differences occurring, and then whatever receives this frequency is extrapolating the new material, the new information from that pure tone.
So you're not just creating new frequencies with your voice is modulating that carrier frequency and turning it into your voice.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think.
That sort of makes sense.
Yeah. So let's see here. What else? Oh, color works the same way. You know, you have the red colors are the lower frequencies. Mm-hmm. We all heard Roy G. Biv.
Yep.
You know, red,
orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
Correct. So the red colors are of lower frequency, and the blue, indigo, and such are of the higher frequency, more busy. Now, in relation to that, there's something called the red shift. Mm-hmm. And this is how, talk about integrating all these things together, this is how we kind of found out that the universe was expanding. Mm-hmm. Scientists noticed that planets, when you look at them, tend to have more of a red shift, so that the light that they give off would normally just be white. Mm-hmm. But since they're moving away, we're receiving the waveforms at a lower, they're kind of
more slowly because they're moving away.
Exactly. They're decompressing a little bit, so it gives it a red shift to the planets.
Huh.
So that was one of the things that we kind of aha moments about the universe that we learned, the red shift. You can hear the red shift. You can actually hear this when you hear a tornado siren or something like that, or a police siren.
Yeah, it kind of goes down. Yeah,
when it nears you, it's raising in pitch. When it's moving away, it starts to decrease in frequency. Starts to get
Isn't
lower.
that the Doppler effect?
That's the Doppler effect, exactly. But that is actually an audio representation of the mechanics occurring within the redshift concept.
Yeah, so the redshift is like the Doppler effect for light, with the much higher frequency ratios that light is involved with.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now let us talk about the Schumann frequency.
Let's talk about the Schumann frequency. We had a lot of fun with this. Yeah, because we've had a lot of fun with this.
Yeah. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, where we tuned the piano to 432 hertz.
Right.
A440 equals 432.
Yeah. All right, so just to set up, in traditional modern, in modern tuning, we tune instruments so that the A above middle C is a frequency of 440 hertz.
That means it's vibrating at 440 times a second. Mm-hmm. And your brain reads those frequencies when they hit your eardrum and vibrate your eardrum at 440 times a second.
Right. Yeah. So that is A equals 440. Now, it was not always like that. As recently as Bach, who was a master organ maker and tuner.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know he made them.
Yes, he did.
That is awesome.
He constructed, would oversee their, not by himself, but he had people, but he would oversee their construction, and he would oversee their tuning. Mm-hmm. And back then, middle C was calculated at 256 hertz.
Okay.
So it was discovered that middle C was 256 cycles a second.
Yeah.
Which puts the A above middle C somewhere in the vicinity of 432 hertz.
Okay.
Not the 440 that we currently use.
Okay.
Right. And tuning has had a wild and robust history over the course of the musical millennia.
But that 432 is what we're talking about today, where A equals 432 hertz is supposed to be more in tune with the Schumann resonances. And we're going to talk about that.
Yeah. You want me to play the 432?
Yeah, let's hear that. It'll just be an A on that keyboard because I have it tuned to the Verity frequency, also known as scientific tuning.
So that is the 432 hertz A.
Mm-hmm. Does that feel better?
I mean, I don't know. I am kind of getting used to it, I think.
It's good music. It's music.
I can't decide if it really does sound richer, like especially in the bottom.
Uh-huh.
If it really does sound richer, or if I'm just fooling myself.
Placebo effect.
Right.
The sugar pill.
Right.
After all, this entire episode is on how this frequency is supposed to be special in some way. based on universal math, based on the golden mean, pi.
Yeah, okay. That whole thing, which is like everything.
Yeah, it's everything. Pi is like the secret to the universe somehow. So these are all kind of revolving around this more kind of constant thing. You know?
Yeah, well, let's talk about that being in accord with all of those things.
Yeah, in accord. Yeah.
Music pun.
I see what you did. All right. After you laughed about it and had to think about it. Okay, so the Schumann frequency is this. In 1952, Winfried Otto Schumann discovered that there was a resonant frequency of electromagnetic waves between the Earth and the ionosphere.
Mm-hmm.
This is the result of lightning strikes. So anytime lightning strikes on the Earth, it sends out energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's sending out these low frequency energy waves.
Right.
They're getting trapped between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, which is about 50 miles above the Earth's surface.
Yeah.
So what's happening is the Earth, that outer shell between the Earth's atmosphere and the ionosphere is acting as a resonating chamber.
Okay.
So lightning striking about just under 50 times a second here on Earth, sending out these low energy waves, which are creating resonant frequencies that fluctuate throughout the day between typically 7 and 8 hertz. But the primary one seems to be 7.83 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
And the weaker overtones, as we know them, are 14.3 hertz, 20 hertz, 27. These are the overtones. But anyways, all that to say, it's a cool concept, and basically any planet that has an ionosphere has a resonating frequency based on the size of the planet. So Jupiter sing bass, Mercury sing tenor. You know?
Yeah, I got into a little bit of this with my research too. Yeah, but go on.
Here's a fun fact: Titan, the Saturn moon. Titan actually has its main ionosphere is at about 1,200 kilometers off the surface of the moon.
Yep.
But there's another layer of charged particles more like 63 miles up. So Titan has 2 resonances.
Oh wow.
Isn't that interesting?
So what are the ratios between these resonances?
I don't know. It must have something to do with the distance between the ionosphere and the charged particles.
Yeah,
of one
because
and then
if
the
we
other.
knew the ratio, like a 3-to-2 ratio would be a perfect fifth.
You have to wonder.
Cool?
You
Yeah.
have to wonder.
Yeah.
Would it be something that is considered a harmonious resonance?
Yeah.
You know, in relation to the larger wave.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fun stuff to think about, huh?
But yeah, fun stuff to think about.
So some people, now this is where it gets a little fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now keep in mind, Matt, I've always been science minded, but I've also had a little bit of part of me that kind of wants to not rule out anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
The science mind might win a little bit on this episode, but this is some fun stuff, okay? So some believe that this frequency holds certain power or significance in our lives.
Okay.
Now, if you enter the Schumann frequency on any search engine, you'll see all these videos that come up. And many of them have pictures of meditation bells and flowers and the universe. And one video you can actually is 8 hours
Oh gosh.
of the 432 tone. 432
Oh my
frequency.
God.
8 hours of that tone straight. Sine wave. So it's like, what is that note? So it's like, nice round sound wave.
Except that, because this is a piano sound, this note is decaying, whereas that one,
It would just constantly be going the entire time.
wow.
So yeah,
Ooh.
8 hours of that. But people are putting that up on YouTube and people, the claim is that this frequency is somehow in tune with us as human beings. It's a part of the reason the Earth came about as it did. It's part of the organization of the natural atmosphere on Earth and the inhabitants of it. So we're all kind of resonating on this frequency. So you will find, and Matt, you've probably seen this a lot too because we're both researching this. You will probably find hundreds and hundreds of products and people trying to sell you stuff saying, put on this little bracelet. It'll align your frequencies to those of the universe, and you'll just feel better.
You'll just feel better. And I've seen the little metal balls.
Yeah.
And you, like, as you roll them around in your hand, they clink together.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to clink at frequencies that resonate with the universe, or resonate
Oh, yeah?
with the planet.
Oh, yeah. They do. They have little singing, ding, little
Yeah,
chime to them.
it's supposed to sort of like, de-stress you to...
But I think if I was the skeptic in me might say, yes, it could be the chimes that are calming, but it could also be the worry stone effect of just having something to mess around with in your hands.
And why is it that frequency specifically, or is it the fact that you're just doing this and meditating on a tone?
Yeah.
Which can have, de-stressing, sort of relaxing prospects to it, no matter what the tone is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. People who meditate, and I have not done that in a long time, but when I did, the brief glimpse I had of that was very, very centering and very relaxing.
Yeah.
I never meditated to a tone.
Yeah.
But I can see where meditating to a tone can help you wash out other distractions if you're focused on the tone itself.
Right, yeah. So does it have to necessarily be this Schumann frequency?
Right, exactly. Now, this kind of goes back to a conversation that we had. I don't know if we had this on air, but we talked about, and we're going to have an episode on this, actually, I think.
Awesome.
On how some people think that certain keys are sadder than others, that C minor might be sadder than A minor, for example. You remember Spinal Tap?
Yeah.
This is in D minor, the saddest of all keys.
The saddest of all keys.
But the question is, some people think that, for example, C minor is the saddest of all keys.
Right, the pathetique key.
Yeah, the pathetique key, compared to just B flat minor or whatever.
Yeah, there is some actual documented musical historical evidence to explain that phenomenon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about that. But let's see here. So what are some problems with this whole with this claim that the Schumann resonance can be, what they claim it is,
What are some problems?
Well, one thing I'm not sure if we clarified earlier, but the Schumann frequency is not a constant 7.83 hertz.
Oh, okay.
It's often fluctuating. It's affected by weather, time of night, day cycle, where it is on its elliptical rotation.
Okay.
So there's many different influences, and you can't say that one frequency would be constantly in tune with the Schumann resonance, or resonances for that matter. So that's one thing I can think of based on my limited understanding of physics. Matt, do you have any ideas? What do you think, man?
Well, I think for one thing, we're conflating two. This is just my opinion.
Go ahead.
So if you believe in the Schumann frequency, I am definitely open to hear what you think.
Oh, it exists. It's a thing.
Yeah, and if you're someone who subscribes to this, I definitely want to hear your side.
Please.
This is just my opinion. It feels like we are conflating two very, very different things when we talk about the resonance of the planet versus what's going to make us feel better.
Right.
Because
what would those two have to do with each other?
Yeah, because what do these two things have to do with each other? It's nice of us to think it's nice for us to think of the idea of coming into harmony with the planet or the universe, coming into accord.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, you're talking about a frequency which is far too low for us to hear. Versus emotional effects we get from the frequencies we do hear.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
we listen to
feel.
music and we feel better, but is that is that really a product of a something that we can't perceive, even if it is there?
Right.
I mean, are we not being affected by the things that we are perceiving? So does it matter if the tones we hear are in accord with this other tone that we don't hear? If we don't hear that tone, so where is the resonance with this creates this emotional impact proof?
Yeah.
Right. Because to me, it feels like we're conflating harmony, physical harmony, with like emotional and spiritual harmony that comes from our minds and our souls and our whatevers. So I don't know about that. For one thing.
Yeah. Well, here's something to that though. Here's something about that. the U.S. military has the active denial system, which can shoot a electromagnetic energy wave of 95 gigahertz onto a person, and it really heats up the surface of their skin. Not unlike a microwave, it excites the water molecules and makes them have to get out of there. So we know wave-based energy can cause physical effects on people and objects.
Yeah.
But as far as the
and they can actually destroy solid matter. I mean, the government has experimented with sound wave weapons that can knock walls over. And things.
I think they can actually use that to break apart little gallstones, kidney stones, and stuff.
That too. Yeah,
subsonic. Or
but again,
high frequency.
That's being affected physically.
Yeah.
But being affected emotionally. This is the two conflicting ideas in my brain.
Yeah. Although feeling better physically can result in you feeling better emotionally, I think.
I suppose, but that's sort of one step removed from what they're claiming, though, isn't it?
Well, here's a problem with the claim. Here's a basic scientific problem with the claim. Okay, the claim is that the frequency has a beneficial effect on the human body. Well, the human body, this frequency we're talking about, 7.83 hertz, is like 38,000 kilometers in wavelength. That's about 23,000 miles.
Yeah.
So we got this little human being, teeny tiny human being. You think that person's going to be infected by this gigantic wave?
Yeah.
Now, if you get into the overtone series, that might be where it all starts to come together.
Well, that's where it starts coming into, like audible frequencies. And
yes.
Things. Yeah.
So compared to 440 hertz, 432 is actually more in line or more in tune with the 7.83 hertz.
Yeah.
Frequency.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing in my head that I can think of that might have any kind of influence or support for that claim.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we can't be affected by, I don't think we'd be affected by that something.
Yeah, something that long with 28.
And that is also a very small part of the electromagnetic spectrum. It's a very small, negligible window of frequencies. So we're getting hit by sunlight, we're getting hit by gamma, solar radiation, all that stuff,
Yeah, I want to know what these positive effects actually are, right? I mean, it's kind of hard to talk about are we or are we not affected by these things when, the effect we're trying to measure is this very vague positive effects. That's not a very scientific approach.
No, not really. It's hard to kind of use emotions to explain science.
Yeah.
And a lot of these sites seem to go more towards that, Yeah. And I hate to say it, man, but I just think that there's a lot of people out there really grifting people.
Yeah.
Because they're using some kind of concept, some kind of buzzword that they thought was pretty cool, and then they found a way to capitalize on it, while potentially taking advantage of some people, some of whom might have possibly been looking for legitimate solutions to emotional or psychological disarray.
Yeah, or just with a desire, like we all have, to be emotionally centered.
Or to connect with something bigger.
And to feel a part of the universe that we exist in, and not separate from it. I think that's a fundamental desire of all human beings.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Most of them.
Yeah. The question in my mind is this making you more in tune with is listening to music or listening to sounds that are aligned mathematically, and math is to a certain extent a human invention too.
Yeah.
Is these things listening to sounds mathematically aligned with these frequencies bringing us in tune with the universe?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, if I live in a tree, am I closer to nature?
Yeah.
In one literal sense, I guess I'm closer to nature. But is that what I really mean when I say I want to be closer to nature?
Right.
Yeah,
on a metaphysical level?
Yeah, on a metaphysical level.
Yeah.
Are you more in tune with the ocean if you paint yourself blue? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Good one.
It's kind of like that, it feels like to me.
Yeah. It might be apples and oranges.
Or are you more in touch with the ocean if you see another person painted blue? Is an even better analogy, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the color blue, does that make you more in tune with the ocean?
If not to some nano degree, maybe. I don't know. If you're thinking about something, are you more in touch with it at the time? Maybe.
Well, we're not saying you're thinking about the ocean. You're just looking at something painted blue.
You're not connecting with the ocean and the marine life there within.
Yeah. Right,
like Aquaman.
Yeah.
You're not Aquaman.
You're not Aquaman.
If you see someone colored blue. Well, I don't know, man. It's
I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm not prepared to totally disclaim. I mean, to me, what's fascinating is it's fascinating to think about the fact that everything has a frequency.
Yes, everything has a resonance.
And that everything has a resonance. And that there are these frequencies and resonances that could be described as a musical tone all around us. Now what we do with that information, hey, maybe try to play in 432. You might like it.
Yeah, right.
I am half convinced that the lower notes sound richer.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
But it's interesting because they probably didn't sample a piano at 432. I don't think.
Probably
I could be wrong. But
probably not. But that's something that's pretty easily digitally manipulated.
It's only 8 hertz, so you're not going to notice a lot of artifacting.
Yeah, I mean, you can sample it at 440 and then
detune it.
Yeah, tune it down is just proportionately taking out 8 hertz a second from your sampling rate, right?
And I haven't contacted this company, Garriton, but I'm pretty sure that's what they did. So you might actually what you were perceiving as a deeper, richer sound might be actually something that's more of an artifact of
the recording.
Yeah,
yeah.
Interesting, huh?
Who knows?
Hey, speaking of that whole thing, how everything has its own frequency, and I'm talking like from the Earth, whose atmosphere has its own resonant frequency.
Yeah.
Down to a little glass of wine that you might rub your fingers over,
right?
Make a tone. Mm-hmm. Down to the atoms and molecules,
yes,
which encompass everything around us.
Right. Yeah.
Everything has its own resonant frequency. So, Matt, why would someone try to sell me? Because I'm shorter and not as thin as you. Why would someone? I probably have a different resonance than you.
Possibly.
Why would someone try and sell me this frequency that's supposed to align me with the same and sell you the same thing?
Yeah.
Wouldn't we have different resonant frequencies?
Probably.
If not,
it might only be the difference of like 2 or 3 cents.
Yeah, it might be imperceivable.
Yeah. So the real stuff is making your own bracelet or chimes. It's like we gauge your particular resonance and then construct a set of stress balls specifically for you.
That'll be the expensive part of the
right.
You have to come into our lab.
That's the high end.
Yeah, we're gonna figure out what frequency you are first, and then we're gonna make the bracelet for you.
The custom made bracelet.
Custom made, so it's custom, so it's gotta be more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all look out for that kind of stuff. Do your research, check other sources, don't be hoodwinked. We're not all scientists, we're not all physicists.
Yeah,
and that's
look out for that kind of stuff, but having sort of halfway been dismissive and laughed at a lot of this.
Yes.
Let me, by way of small recompense, say this: there is definitely something to the concentration on a single musical tone.
Yeah.
As a way, as a meditative exercise, which can clear your mind of a lot of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I've experimented with meditation before, and as you have. And there is something to that.
Yeah.
I remain unconvinced that it has to be this tone specifically, or a tone somehow mathematically related to this tone specifically. But concentrating on that is definitely meditative. And I think there is a link between the meditative properties of concentrating on a tone and the emotional value we get from listening to music, which is tones.
Yeah.
Right? There are physical relationships that explain the effect of a perfect fifth or an octave and why they sound the way they do to us.
Right.
And why we perceive, there is a physical basis for those kind of things.
Exactly.
And so it is not by any means irrational to think that that different frequencies can affect you different ways, especially different frequency ratios. The music system we know of now is really based on the difference of frequency ratios.
Yeah.
The octave, those two notes are a 2-to-1 ratio frequency wise, right? 440 and 880, or 432 and 864, I guess, if you prefer.
Quick figuring.
Yeah, perfect fifth is a 3-2. A minor third is a 5-4. So these things, it's not ridiculous to think, well, this system of frequencies is what makes music, and music makes us feel a certain way. And that's definitely worth exploring.
Yeah.
And what these frequencies mean to the greater universe, to the universe that exists outside of the human ear and the human brain, which is what is perceiving all of this, right? How do we transcend what we perceive into what we do not perceive, like the Schumann frequency? That's still left up to debate. I don't want to jump to conclusions, as many people do.
You're right. The skeptic in me wants to nail this, just to throw this away, but at the same time, the other part of me, who wants to believe in something greater and something more, the unified field theory kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
Bringing all these things together makes me wonder, if there is a frequency, if there is a resonance that this planet is on, and we can find notes based on those overtones of that resonance, why wouldn't it be considered more consonant?
Yeah.
Therapeutic, because there's not as much conflict within the waves. There's more harmoniousness amongst the frequencies.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's attractive to think about. Much more difficult to scientifically prove.
Yeah, exactly. Which is the problem we run into, right?
Yeah, I think the idea of harmony between two sets of waves. If you're only perceiving one of those two waves, and I guess that's where I get tripped up, is that you're not perceiving these frequencies.
Yeah.
And so how can you talk about being in conflict or in harmony with a frequency that you're not perceiving?
Well, there's been other claims on the internet that I've found.
Oh yeah.
that
I'm sure
that Prince, Mozart, Bob Marley, Verdi, Hendrix all use this 432 tuning. Now, I thought I read somewhere that Verdi initially was into 435, but some scientists got him into 432, and he ended up sticking with it and arguing for it. Matt, you did some research on that, didn't you?
Yeah, so Verdi did, the composer, Giuseppe Verdi, proposed A = 432. And he said, for reasons of basically just trying to halt what he perceived as the gradual upward creep of pitch throughout the centuries. So we got to stop doing this, or we'll all be screeching at each other. So he suggested to make a stable, so a sort of standard tuning, which every orchestra in the world would tune to, right? And he proposed 432, based probably on Bach's organ work as much as anything else, but.
Yeah, because this was before the discovery of the Schumann frequency.
Yeah. So yeah, there was that. Other composers have occasionally brought up the idea, and it got shot down. Not so much the 432 part as the let's have universal tuning idea. But then in the modern era, we have sort of coalesced around A = 440 hertz.
Was that 1939?
May have been.
That actually was standardized?
May have been, yeah.
I'll double check on
1939,
that.
1940, something like
That was way after Verdi.
That was way after Verdi, yeah.
So I wonder why Verdi came up with 432. That's the big question in my head.
There are some entirely practical things, at least according to Verdi and others. Like, for example, it's easier on the sopranos who have to sing high A and sorts of things like that. If high A is a little bit lower than 440,
A little more forgiving.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. But interesting. No.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Yeah, I even found heard that an otherwise respected scientist, Kepler, who is famous for other things, the Kepler polyhedra and things like that, proposing that the ratios. So the ratio in planetary. So this is music of the sphere stuff, right?
Yeah.
The ratio of planet rotation around the sun that ratio could also be called a frequency ratio.
Yeah.
Right? And so that the ratio of the Earth rotating around the sun, because sometimes it speeds up and sometimes it slows down. It's elliptical, right?
Right.
That ratio is 4:3, which is a minor second. And so he called it fa mi.
Whoa.
Yeah. So the Earth is fa to mi.
Whoa.
Goes between. Yeah. So I mean, I guess I can play this if we're in C. If the universe is in C, and it feels like it should be, great C.
The people's key?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then the Earth is. Yeah.
Sounds like a suspension.
Yeah. Well, fa mi specifically. He said like scale degree 4 to scale degree 3.
Huh.
So in solfege, fa to mi.
Well, how does it have two frequencies?
Because it's the ratio of the fastest to the slowest.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when it's on the longer, it's on me, I guess, and then it's on
Right,
shorter.
yeah,
it's on me.
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's fun.
So in his mind, wow, that was more fun than I expected it to be. So in his mind, if the universe is, and that sounds very university.
It does.
If that's the universe, then Earth is over here, kind of.
Nice.
Which is kind of cool. I could write a piece around that.
Yes, you could. If I don't beat you to it. We still have to do a theme song for this one.
Okay.
Even though I said it was already written, I still have to write that. But I'm not going to take that. I'm going to let you have that.
And then he went on to say that is why misery, M-I-B, zuri, and famine, fa-min, are so prevalent on Earth. Which, now that just went way out there.
That's getting trippy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's go back to this whole Bob Marley thing. I'll go ahead and disprove that now because I've learned lots of Bob Marley and didn't have to retune my bass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not to mention, he and Prince alike, early on at least, were using playing with keyboard players who were using instruments like the Hammond B3 organ and other more fundamental electric keyboards.
Right. Yeah.
In the case of Bob Marley, Rhodes electric piano.
Yeah.
Which you cannot simply tune down.
You don't just tune a different way.
So if your keyboard player is in 440 and you're playing in 432, that's going to be some
Yeah. Now, of course,
conflict.
E flat tuning is a thing. Dropped D tuning is a thing.
In the case of Jimi Hendrix, yes.
Yeah.
Well, in case of many musicians, but when people say Hendrix used these different tunings, the main thing he did was tune down to E flat.
Tune everything down a half step.
To where the 440, A440 would actually be A415.
Yeah.
Half step down.
Yeah. And, those things happen just as much for reasons of singability as anything. And to be able to get to really low frequencies, like in death metal, they tend to like the lower. Mm-hmm. You can just get to lower frequencies when you do that.
So this band Ghost from Sweden, kind of like their thing is Satan, 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 but it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But everything they do is they tune down to a drop D. D for the devil,
D
I
for
assume.
the devil.
C for the universe.
Very devilish.
D for the devil.
All right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Definitely let us know what you think about the Schumann frequency and other things. We're interested in your opinion.
Yeah, we're interested in other opinions and other...
definitely know if you would like to hear more episodes like this.
Yeah, this is kind of a little bit of a testing ground. We're trying to find a way to expand, we want to cover everything music.
Yeah.
At some point we might get into audio illusions.
Yeah, which are interesting.
Yeah, which is also, what do you call it, adjacent?
Music adjacent.
Music adjacent.
Yeah. We're trying to expand our own minds a little bit as well.
There's one more thing I want to recommend to our listeners before we get out of here. Cymatics, Cymatics, Cymatics.
Okay.
There's a guy named Nigel Stanford, and you can find this on YouTube, and he has done one of those things where he's making music, and he's putting, like, liquids onto the speakers, or the speakers under liquids.
Oh, I've seen that.
And you're watching all these patterns emerging.
Yeah.
And he uses sand. He'll put sand on a flat surface and have it just vibrating from the speakers, what he's doing. And all of a sudden, you hear these sounds result in these objects organizing into these different shapes and patterns.
Yeah, it's really cool. It is.
When I see stuff like that, I start to think, yes, there is something happening that I surely don't understand. Some physicists could probably say, well, that's simply da 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 da.
Yeah, right. Well, you're seeing overtones in the shapes.
You're seeing it in action. You're actually
Yeah.
seeing some of these things in action. So
Yeah.
that's a cool thing to check out. And
Absolutely, yeah, definitely check that out.
it's just an interesting topic. I think we're
Yeah.
going to get more into it depending on, because, sometimes the episodes I thought would be the lamest, people love the most. And the episodes that I thought people would love, people don't get as many numbers, don't get as many downloads.
What I find hilarious and gratifying is that the music theory ones are always the most popular.
That is kind of cool, isn't
which
it?
I always kind of take to mean, shut up and teach us more music theory.
I know.
Which we will be back to teach you more music theory very soon.
I know, but it's also kind of cool to get an understanding how music works on a more fundamental
level. Yeah.
So
To the extent that we did that.
yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, I think we've said about all we can say right now about this.
Yeah, so go play some 432 music. See if you feel better.
Absolutely. And we will see you next time.
That was pretty deep. If you would like to contribute to this discussion, please email us at info@musicstudent101.com. If you would like to support us financially with a monthly donation, however big or small, you can do so at patreon.com/musicstudent101.